Welcome to the Sinner's Sonnets, written and read by Giles Mirth. Prologue. A silver-tongued devil released from hell with heinous motive and intentions cruel makes modern attempt at an ancient spell. If love is dead, then maybe sin should rule. Sonnets tell the satisfied lover's tale, but as we undertake our excursion, this sinister fable they will unveil, a modest diabolic inversion. To that end, these corrupted words shall tell how a tempting tapestry I must weave, and the actions of those it will compel, as events unfold you might not believe. For I have gambled with forces malign, and risked all that these events will align. Part 1. Gluttony, Sloth, and Envy. I was a sinner when I was alive, and now again through London streets I stalk, thinking on the downfall I must contrive, watching commuters in their daily walk. Among them I see each delightful sin, beneath their neat suits their dirgeful disguise, secrets they keep behind walls far too thin, for dark desires lurk behind furtive eyes. With my liberty I feel elation, but to what end you must let me ordain, luring any drear soul to temptation is far too easy and a dull refrain. My present freedom is complicated, it's a damned game I've instigated. Who claims evil walks only in the night? Do I not love the sun's late golden shine? The cool air feels fresh, the blue sky looks bright. 2 days people have their lives to define. Emerging from work with bag or folder, all out of office and each down the pub, jackets held loose for when it gets colder, with cigarettes and drinks, heads form a hub. Small knots of people united by chat, a verbal melee to talk, flirt and bitch. Who's going out, been a slut, getting fat? Thus Friday night marks my opening pitch. If all can play their parts with devotion, it's time to set my plans into motion. Same again, drink up. Next round, keep pace. Wine, red or white, or there's beer, ale, lager. The drinkers engage in a nighttime race, beginning an alcoholic saga. Down one more pint, vision becomes a blur. Take another shot, no one's thinking clear. Gulp down your wine, speech reduced to a slur. A little white pill washed down with your beer. Drink hard and fast, pour away inhibition, thoughts overrated, let instinct kindle, the perfect precursor to sedition, your principles too can only dwindle. Drink, you fools, because there's no tomorrow, banish hope and joy and pain and sorrow. Stage set for Grace William, indolent lamb, out with a delightful teenage school crowd, celebrating a meaningless exam, they're noisy, flirty and over-endowed. Dressed for maximum male attention, cheap makeup, fake lashes and push-up bras, free drinks and entry their main intention, their guaranteed success in all the bars. Grace, sweet virgin in black, just 17, never knew her parents, child adoptee, kindly fostered but fell caught in between, she's not the only child they oversee. Grace, unaware, into my path is hurled, for my salvation I'll destroy her world. A club waits, doors wide, outside stands the queue, bouncers huddled up, grim-faced, eyes beady, but the girls know a guy and walk on through, expensive and clean, nothing too seedy. Their fake IDs accepted with a frown, after the night chill it's pleasantly warm, and steel escalators carry them down, in the dim reduced to an outlined form. Hot, loud and packed, reeking air thick with sweat, keep together and push through the hot stink, all squirming like fishes caught in a net, and so together, arm in arm, they link. For young women, crowds will always displace, so they form a circle, carve out their space. Then the guys close in with a drunk shuffle, the backbeat throbs low, floor sticky and grimed, mood charged and tense, threatening a scuffle, all of their movements are flawed and mistimed. A boy pulls Grace close, hands slightly unsure. Through her dress she feels the swell in his jeans. She sees him dimly, young and immature, fumbling, hesitant, just out of his teens. The kiss, when it comes, is dull and flaccid. It leaves her feeling nothing but hollow, his stupid, grinning face almost placid. She breaks off to smoke, he's left to wallow. He calls after, saying his name is Jack. She can't hear, wouldn't care, doesn't look back. Clicking in heels, she ascends the back stair. That's where smokers get herded like cattle, up and outside into sudden cold air. Quieter now, you can hear people prattle. 2 addicts here, one for that cigarette, just desperate to light up and inhale. Other fanatics must have the internet, fervently checking devices for mail. Swallow that smoke, take it into your lungs, enjoy the exhale with nicotine buzz. Talking inanely, just movement of tongues, drift away in the smoke, head full of fuzz. Oh, how you all must feed your addictions, having such courage in your convictions. Do crowds part for destined star-crossed lovers, so their fate-filled eyes can meet, I assume? What of the people misfortune covers? How should they meet in gathering gloom? Lynn Taylor enters my game with a spin, former model, elegant, tall and lean, light grey eyes, long blonde hair and flawless skin. In a beautiful dress she looks serene. But then down said dress Grace's cocktail spills. By the apology Lynn is amused, given frantic, teeth clicking with the chills, any tension is easily diffused. Shortly, both giggling, they drift inside, see how my dancers are swept with the tide. Downstairs, Grace is done with the clubbing dirge, tired of dead eyes that stare and hands that grope. From her school friends, it's time to diverge to a private event past the red rope. Much cooler here, and the noise is muted. The women are dressed in designer chic, no jeans downstairs, or the men are suited, quite the expensive executive clique. It's men here, not boys, and women, not girls. The decor elegant, the finish smooth, jewellery glitters, all diamonds and pearls, as Lynn leads Grace to a dimly lit booth. Lynn's stepfather needs some introduction. He's a man engaged in self-destruction. James King did very well out of banking, making millions with no obligations. He sold short when the market was tanking, gambling with a wealth exceeding nations. Last year, his dearly beloved wife died. One lost stray cigarette started the fire, and tears couldn't save her, but how he cried. Now he's drowning deep in a depressed mire. King and Lynn now tread a path well-travelled, draining bottles and taking each new drug. In just a year, their lives have unravelled. Advice of caution is met with a shrug. One woman's death crushed their collective will, leaving me with an empty void to fill. 6 in the booth and heads crowd close around, talk of stocks, shares, and which funds to invest, gains duly toasted and losses well drowned, of respective fortunes they keep abreast. Grace tries hard to follow what's being said. They're discussing the best private wealth fund, but after a time she loses the thread and can only sit silent and shunned. King's in command, eyes sharp, face lined and hard. His style is eloquently decisive. By advancing years he's in no way marred. Of the others he's faintly derisive. They stand to leave when the talk is finished, but Grace stays seated, feeling diminished. Lynn lifts a canapé for Grace to try. The proffered bite has a delightful taste. In sitting, Lynn lays a hand on her thigh before sliding an arm around her waist. Grace looks intrigued by Lynn's offending hand, laid on her bare skin, decidedly pale, at delicate fingers caramel tanned at the painted perfection of each nail. That look gives Lynn's smile a slightly cruel twist. She adds to the show a practiced hair toss, and the kiss is something Grace can't resist, warm breath and the taste of cherry lip gloss. Such display of public sapphic fiction brings a smile to King through his affliction. Others watch the display with intrigue. One such, haughty as a queen on her throne, is in an entirely different league. Cold and calm, here is someone I condone. King's lustful smiles have made him a target. For the girls she spares no more than a glance. He's clearly a rich man in her market, and she won't leave his interest to chance. She sends over shots, her card on the tray. Jane Doe, elite companion, reads the text. Shame it doesn't mention the price he'll pay, or the tragedy that will follow next. Wealth is her only true desire and creed, fertile ground to plant another dark seed. Born as the result of a one-night stand, spent her early life living day to day, 2 kids, different men, neither one planned. As tiny infants she gave them away. So determined to change her existence, she took up the world's oldest profession, and those sex acts lifted her from subsistence, so she embraced it without concession. She saunters to King, silk softly rustles in her dress of subdued aquamarine, a hard body, bare arms lined with muscles, strong cheekbones, offset eyes of sterling green. Jane leans close, services to solicit. Her and King discuss a deal illicit. They discuss the price of certain pleasures. King concedes that tonight the girls are tired. He wants everything with no half measures. Then he glares as she leaves, a man hardwired. The 2 girls have ebbed down to a smoulder, adrenaline gone, for now they're burnt out. Grace, eyes closed, rests her head on Lynn's shoulder, wilted like a flower caught in the drought. They rise from their booth, tired and flagging. Lynn looks down with a smile at her new friend, cradled close and still her feet are dragging. The night is over, but it's not the end. Closing time, empty drinks lined in a row, lights come up, like it or not, time to go. Outside is a scene of drunken decay, lads group together in stumbling ruck, lone people stagger with bleary dismay, some stumble, fall over, rise slick with muck. From far off a lone voice raised as it rants at his friend, some idiot drunken shouts, a girl sits in the street, flashing her pants, on his knees a man hacks up bile in gouts. Some just stagger by, their faces waxy. One young man nurses a long bleeding cut. Most try desperately to hail a taxi, the delights of an alcoholic glut. But taxis are waiting, King called ahead. One drives Grace home to collapse safe in bed. Such a night leaves all in alcohol's debt. Find the whole experience cathartic. In the bathroom by nausea beset. Was it worth you feeling this lethargic? Out of bed and into that hot shower, gingerly trying to nibble some toast, your head down, from recollection cower, maybe later you'll have a breakfast roast. Remember, that was an evening gone well. Many a night seems to be all but cursed, ending in hospital or police cell, and the cold still steel of the morgue at worst. Yes, for some of those who drink and revel, they'll wait to share a glass with the devil. In King's painful head, guilt is free to roam, and its ceaseless voice keeps getting louder. Hangovers drive unfortunate truths home, seal them away with a line of powder. So much guilt can leave a man deflated, slumped in the kitchen, forcing down water, telling himself they're not blood-related. King has desires for his dead wife's daughter. At the breakfast counter, Lynn forms her line. Hands work feverish, the body languid. King convinces himself all will be fine, though his eyes desire what they should forbid. He runs a hard hand through her hair like gold. They share a cold smile, neither one consoled. King arranges the day, his thoughts occupied. They have lunch and opera reservations. On inviting Grace, their thoughts coincide. He makes the calls, simple alterations. Lynn hurries to her room to get ready. She sifts through clothes with 5-figure price tags. She can't decide, the drugs make her heady, tossing potentials to the bed like rags. She selects a grey tartan-pleated skirt, delicate black thong, white cotton knee socks. She discards her bra, slides on a silk shirt, then considers her shoes piled by the box. She makes her choice from the designer heels. Such are the objects of beauty ideals. To Lynn, adulthood felt like stagnation. She's always worried her looks have faded. With no more photo shoots on location, her outlook on life ever more jaded. She applies her foundation and shading, contouring attended to in detail, the palette to be applied and the grading, all part of being the perfect female. Splash of bright colour, gloss over lipstick, hours of makeup is habitual, with eyeshadow brushstrokes, mascara flick, its own little self-serving ritual. Finally, her hair achieving that glow. Unsurprisingly, the process is slow. Grace is with friends on social media, all with contrived online identities, a full liar's encyclopedia. Who are these friends typing obscenities? For those engaged in said self-promotion, Grace is a clear target for derision, their words devoid of human emotion. The assault contains no indecision. She's a lying bitch, useless slut, cheap whore. Who were those people and when did she leave? An ocean of abuse without a shore. Grace typing responses, seeking reprieve. One text from Lynn inviting her to lunch, and she's forgotten the whole awful bunch. Meanwhile, Jane has a different routine, a minor act of self-preservation, though not exactly fitting for a queen, naked and exuding perspiration. From floor to ceiling, tall mirrors extend. Through yoga poses, her sculpted body strains. On its strength and power, her thoughts attend, reviewing muscle and interlaced veins. She moves to the weights, settles in a stance. Her shoulders bulge from the force exerted, the better her tiny waist to enhance, arcing her back with figure asserted. Her routine over, she lets the weights drop, then swiftly pulls on a sweat-stained gym top. A camera captures the entire display, the glass lens impartial to wrong or right. She adds the clip to her modest array, all uploaded to her client website. Pornography epitomizes sloth, hunched straining towards self-satisfaction, no better than animals at the trough, and a model of complete inaction. Men and women sat leering at a screen, no matter your desire for perversion, searching through sordid images obscene, sink in graphic sexual immersion. Jane's emails include King's invitation. She accepts it without hesitation. Grace sets out for lunch. Parents evaded. They would have had questions if she'd been caught, as her modest makeup has been raided and her cheap new red dress is tight and taut. King has her address from the night before, so a car waits as Grace swallows concern. Those few doubts are nothing she can't ignore, no matter how uncertain the return. Still tired, she slumbers from the motion's lull, from suburbia into the city. Colours change from bright greens to grey and dull. Glass and steel buildings pass without pity. The car pulls up in a wide, unknown street. The restaurant beckons. It's time to eat. Large oval windows, floor-to-ceiling height. Silverware gleams and crystal glass twinkles, sparsely decorated in black and white, with draped tablecloths devoid of wrinkles. Grace is led through the seated clientele as low talk drifts through this high-class canteen. Far more delightfully floats the smell wafting from expensive, finest cuisine. She skirts round a huge man eating mutton. In his open mouth, food is crushed to paste, his stuffed shirt straining at every button. In a way, at least nothing goes to waste. Lynn and King are waiting at a table. Grace approaches, feeling quite unstable. Grace takes her seat, enthralled by the venue, but struggling still with her past suspicion. A waiter comes to explain the menu, and he looks at Grace with recognition. Her only reaction is a pained sigh. He's a memory beyond detection, understated if handsome, clearly shy, the young man last night and her rejection. She struggles to even recall his name. He tells her it's Jack, face seeming to freeze. Both her nod and smile are equally lame. He grins awkwardly, eager to appease. As to this recognition, King inquires, and Jack's crimson face betrays his desires. How they met last night is briefly explained, and seeing him, Grace feels some connection. Her interest doesn't need to be feigned. The realization brings affection. With this new coincidence, Lynn is rapt. She insists it must be the work of fate, but fate is for fools. They'll all be entrapped. Jack's hook is set with such alluring bait. Picture Jack Hart waiting on the wealthy, serving them food he could never afford, and such growing envy isn't healthy. He resents the lack of a just reward. By such things Jack has always felt taunted, and in this place they're so easily flaunted. Anxious, Jack explains the meal, every course, each of which comes with its own wine pairing. The vineyard's pedigree he must endorse, it should be said with a certain bearing. But Jack rushes through it all, caught off guard. Lynn's look to King holds question unspoken. He quietly observes Jack with terse regard, nods his head in approving token. So Lynn extends the official invite, and envy, of course, prompts Jack to agree. His once bored face now holds intrigued delight. With that, I've got my final on-listee. King tells Jack he'll be collected later, then waves him away. Just one more waiter. Almost forgotten it's time for the food. To start comes a dish of caviar. Lavish dishes will soon settle the mood. Next comes a lightly garnished steak tartare. Then scallop ceviche sliced by the disc. Black pudding accompanies lobster tail. Following this is a light seafood bisque, and rich mustards complement potted quail. Mains start with salt-crusted fillet of bream. Pale seared squid encircles a huge crab claw. A red wine jus covers duck supreme, then succulent slices of roast wild boar. Cocoa powder dusts caramel parfait. The meal is finished with champagne sorbet. It takes 3 hours for a 10-course meal. The clink of cutlery, soft swill of wine, their movements idle and manner genteel. It's a slow and languorous way to dine. Food consumes most of the conversation, and eating obviates the need to speak. King seems lost in quiet consternation. When pushed, he mutters, "It's been a long week." Lynn fills the dead space, talking of fashion. She follows each editorial trend. It's the closest she has to a passion, while Grace can sit silent, smile, and pretend. Grace's thoughts feel dull, their progress heavy, with wine and time exacting their levy. Grace makes for the restroom, full of self-doubt. Lynn follows, slipping through the closing door. Her face is set in a too-perfect pout, assuming that Grace had wanted to score. She pours a line of powder near the sink, sculpted with care and card, her fingers flit, watching in silence. Grace can only blink as Lynn leans and gracefully takes her hit. Lynn suggests she takes something for the stress, holding out on her palm a small white pill, unnerved, but Grace takes it nevertheless, swallows it with a precarious thrill. Sisters again, it's now time to depart, with dining done, next to take in some art. Once outside, King swiftly hails a black cab, headed for Faust at the Royal Opera House. That operatic tale makes my own seem drab, and the parallels don't escape my nous. Old Faust sells his soul to again be young, so comes the devil Mephistopheles, who fulfills that desire with arms wide flung and delights in mankind's hypocrisies. Faust pursues a woman of great beauty, and all leads to his final damnation, but through some poor sense of divine duty, she finds her eventual salvation. As for my own discreet tale, please fear not, there'll be no redemption for this damned lot. They arrive at the prestigious building and join in with the entering clamour, polished floors, high doorways set with gilding, a place of unmistakable glamour. As VIPs, they must be escorted, so a uniformed member of staff greets. To their private box they are transported, and then left to leisurely take their seats. They sink into operatic hypnosis. This act ends with the rise of a curtain. I have faith in narcotic psychosis. From this point onward, nothing is certain. Watch them descend into depravity. I'll draw them in, unseen like gravity. End of part 1. Please join me for part 2.